ESPN NBA insider Ramona Shelburne. How are you, Ramona?
What's going on, birthday boy?
I'm just hanging in here, just taking in the draft best I can. How you been?
I'm good. So I actually always like to work on my birthday. I know everybody's like, why are you working today? Go home. And I think it's great because when you work, especially in our field, everyone wishes you a happy birthday, and it's like a much bigger deal. Whereas, like, if I'm at home, like, I might go out to dinner with my husband or, like, I'll get a call from some friends, but, like,
no.
It's mostly just me and the Facebook messages, right?
That's right.
And
Normally,
is, like, so much better.
Yeah, and there is no I in Ramona or Shelburne. It's amazing. You're a team player like that. So let me ask you about last night's draft and what it means. With the Hawks acquiring the 4th overall selection from the Pelicans by way of the Lakers, does that mean that that's officially a third team in, and that is beneficial for the Lakers being able to push the trade into July? Does that trigger something positive for the Lakers?
So it's kind of like this. You have initial deal construction, and then when you modify that deal construction, everybody just has to be on board with it. Everybody just has to say, yeah, we're okay with that. But for New Orleans, it's not exactly that way because, yeah, they're getting the 4 pick, but it's sort of their asset to do what they want with, whereas, like, they're not necessarily adding players or anything to it. It's just it's their asset to do anything with it. So I guess theoretically the Lakers would have to agree to, let New Orleans trade the 4 pick, but I honestly don't know that very specific answer, but I think it doesn't trigger anything. I think that there is always an understanding New Orleans was likely to move that pick, which is why, that's the whole point of them doing the trade, right? They were just adamant they had to get the number 4 pick, and I honestly don't think New Orleans is done dealing it. I think they're, Woj even talked about this last night on draft broadcast. Like, they had a very specific set of things that they were looking for in return for Anthony Davis, and one of them was a veteran player to come to play with that team alongside with Drew Holiday and their kids. But so let's see who that veteran player is, whether that comes via salary cap space that they now have or if they have another trade in the works.
So then when will we know if this trade's official? We get a press release from El Segundo? Is that the way? Or
July 6th. I mean, it really can't. We're in the moratorium now. So, it's July 6th. That's when all of this stuff.
So then how does this then hamper Pelinka's grocery shopping on July 1st?
Oh, it doesn't hamper it. I mean, because you can't close any of those technicalities. The moratorium applies to all the business in the league until July 6th. So everything is just a verbal agreement until July 6th. You can't sign anything or announce anything. That's why with free agent signings, like, teams will never confirm them on the record. You sort of have to get the agents to confirm them. And most of the time they don't even want to go on the record because theoretically, according to league business, like, you can't do anything until July 6th. And
right.
None of us really understood that rule and the implications of that rule until DeAndre Jordan a few years ago. Do you remember that?
Of course. I remember that.
So that's where everybody learned, like, oh, that's why the moratorium's important, okay? Because, like, DeAndre gave a verbal agreement and then went back on that verbal agreement and changed everything up. And so I don't see anything like that happening now, but there's all sorts of reasons why there's a moratorium, and a lot of it has to do with financial accounting, and the league needs time to reconcile its books, et cetera. But the reality is those dates matter for how much salary cap space the Lakers, the Pelicans, and any other team involved in this trade is going to have. And there may even be another team that gets added if the Lakers decide it's beneficial to create even more salary cap space through let's say a 4th team.
So that's the whole, obviously Ramona Shelburne here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Yeah.
I don't want to have this. We're not having this conversation because we want to get into the minutia of the NBA business, but it's because the question of, did Rob Pelinka strike this deal under the best possible terms for the Lakers to be able to add that crucial extra piece, or have enough room under the cap to create, if best he can, his own Raptors type supporting cast for the 2 studs that he has and Kuzma as well, Ramona?
So, you get the latest discussion about this is different than what we heard a few days ago, right? And a lot of it is because, a lot of people around the league weigh in, and sometimes it's the order in which stories appear. And so I think the way that this happened was, Bobby Marks and Woj sort of figured out that, wow, they don't actually have room for a third star based on the July 6th closing date. And their reporting was that the understanding was this was going to close July 6th because the Pelicans would want the opportunity to trade the 4th pick or any other player in that. And then I'll tell you why that's important. Whoever the 4th pick is, it turned out to be DeAndre Hunter. Whether it's the Pelicans or some other team, they're going to want that guy to play in Summer League, right? They don't necessarily want them to skip all of Summer League and wait till July 30th. They don't even get to announce their draft pick. That's weird. Or bring them into the system until the deal closes. We saw a similar thing like this in 2014 when Andrew Wiggins became part of a trade from Cleveland to Minnesota for Kevin Love. And I remember being in the gym there when LeBron committed and Wiggins was getting ready to play his first Summer League game with the Cavs. And it was a little awkward, because everybody kind of had this understanding that he was probably not staying and Kevin Love was going to be in this trade. But they did agree to postpone that trade, and they couldn't even talk about that trade for another month until Wiggins had signed his contract. And from what I understand, Wiggins and his representatives took out an insurance policy on him because he played Summer League with the Cavs. But anything happened. It's not the team that he was expected to go to. So that was very awkward. So that's even more of a stretch than this because that was July 9th. That was after the draft, after free agency, the start of Summer League. This trade was done before the draft. It's just too hard to hold everybody's business up that long. And I don't think there was ever really a chance for the Lakers to push that to the July 30th date. The real issue, Rich, is where did they ask? Did they try? We all have our own reporting on that, and I think it's safe to say it wasn't a priority for the Lakers in those discussions. Now, was it not a priority because they realized New Orleans wasn't likely to give it to them? There's folks who say that, okay? Were there people who they didn't make it a priority because they didn't understand the full implications? I think that was the initial speculation on this, but my reporting on this is that the Lakers just wanted to get the deal done and weren't going to hold it up over something like this.
Yeah, I mean, now, they had to get Anthony Davis in here. They had to get him in before July 1 when they do have to bring somebody in regardless of how much you get, 9 more million. I mean, we all know Ramona, certainly the two of us living here in Los Angeles, the concept of there being a dumpster fire down the street from my studios here was the main hindrance, one would think, and also the concept of whiffing on all free agents or Anthony Davis was not attainable. It's not even possible. They have Anthony Davis here beyond eventually even LeBron's contract. So it's amazing a lot of the hate and a lot of the speculation that you're hearing. And so the question is what is the Lakers' next move to the best of your knowledge once July 1st hits?
Mm-hmm. I think there's a real debate about the third star versus just adding depth, adding quality players, and it doesn't necessarily have to come by a free agency, by the way.
Right.
You can trade players into cap space, so that's another way you could replenish your draft assets that you gave up in this deal. But my understanding is, unless there's probably 2, maybe 2.5 players that are worth going through all the gymnastics they would have to go through to get the max cap space, and even that is I don't know if they can quite get all the way there. It's really close. There's the top tier of free agency that would be worth it to do all that, and if not, then you just add depth. You don't do all the giant gymnastics for the second tier or the third tier of free agents.
Ramona Shelburne, a couple more minutes left with her here on the Rich Eisen Show. And now there's Kawhi, who went to a Blue Jays game last night, created a whole big hullabaloo because he's there. Then we hear rumor that he's shopping for boxes at a Home Depot. Woj and reporting from the worldwide leader being that he's willing to go on an Eastern Conference tour, free agency tour. Ramona, what do you make heads or tails out of all of this information?
Yeah, so his uncle, Dennis Robertson, who is his key. I don't know what his title is. I don't want to call him just his uncle because he's a lot more than his uncle. He's his manager, his advisor, very, very important in this process. His uncle lives in New Jersey, so I think there's the explanation for why he would think about leaving with the Knicks or the Sixers or the Nets, as what we were just talking about last night. I've heard that as well, so I can confirm all that. But it's that would be the reasoning behind that, I'll say this. That's my interpretation of the reasoning behind him meeting those Eastern Conference teams. Okay, and it still feels like this comes down to, do you stay in Toronto or do you go to the Clippers? Let's throw the Lakers in there because it's LA, but I think we're mostly talking about the Clippers. This feels like it's that decision, but look, you never know what happens when you get in the door. Like if you get a meeting, right? Like go back to Kevin Durant when he was meeting with teams in the Hamptons.
That's right.
The team that he was really impressed with, but no one ever thought had a chance, was Boston. Remember, Tom Brady showed up at the pitch meeting, and he was really impressed with that. Didn't mean he went there,
Right.
but first you got to get a meeting, and anyone who tells you they know what Kawhi is going to do is going way too far out on a limb, because I would say of all the free agencies I have covered, what Kawhi Leonard thinks and what really comes just from him and not from anybody else is about the hardest to determine, as I've experienced. And that's saying something, but it's also not surprising based on how hard it is to get to know the guy anyway.
And then based on your reporting and then the talking that you're hearing, the one free agency rumor that you think is most likely to happen in a couple Sundays from now, Ramona Shelburne, would be what?
I mean, it's hard when I do the likely game, right? Because it's just like who's going to win the basketball game.
Right.
I do put a lot of stock in the Kyrie and the Nets, discussion. I feel like there's a lot there, but so I guess that would be the one. But has changed in the NBA over the last 2-3 weeks, right? It's unbelievable. Looking just a couple weeks ago, Klay Thompson had an ACL attack. Kevin Durant had his Achilles. Anthony Davis was still a Pelican. I mean, it's amazing how much the league has changed just in 2 or 3 weeks. And go back to February when we were talking about Boston maybe trading for Anthony Davis, and they couldn't do it because they couldn't have Kyrie and Anthony Davis on max deals, and now it looks like they could lose both of them. Wow. It's
crazy, right? And if Kyrie goes to the Nets and somebody, last one for you, somebody that's been around these parts and locked in on these parts as long as you have, how crazy would it be if D'Angelo Russell winds back with the Lakers? How crazy would that be?
I covered the DeAndre Jordan story, so nothing's crazy to me.
Right.
Like, DeAndre Jordan went to the Mavs and was excited and drinking tequila shots with Mark Cuban. And then 2 days later, he was at his house, barricaded in, and then going back to the Clippers. I've seen a lot in this league, so nothing's crazy to me.
Ramona, thanks for the call. Thanks for, hopefully you didn't get stuck in traffic driving around here in Los Angeles.
Pretty good on the 5 here. Let's see how the rest of the drive is.
Fantastic. Ramona Shelburne with traffic and weather together here on the Rich Eisen Show. Thanks for the call, Ramona. We'll chat soon. You got it. That's Ramona Shelburne here on the Rich Eisen. At Ramona Shelburne here on the show.
For more of the Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.